What is up, guys? Welcome back to yet another episode of Say Yes with your host, Mike Janney. Did you guys remember that song? I low-key played it last week too, but let's not talk about it because I can't stop listening to it. Do you guys have that too, where you find a song that you're into and you literally can't stop playing it? Because that's what I do. I thought it might be kind of fun before we get into the content of today's show, you guys. First of all, hi, I'm streaming on YouTube. This is new for me, feeling really vulnerable in front of the camera, having my voice and face be accessible to you guys. If anybody's tuning in, hey guys, happy Monday. So gross, midterm season. I hate midterms. Feeling kind of weird though, because the majority of my friends are kind of in the thick of their midterms right now. I haven't had one yet. And so it's I feel kind of guilty because they'll be like, no, I can't hang because I have to do homework. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, same. But I low-key can hang because I don't have homework. But that's super interesting because in high school, everybody's pretty much on the same schedule. If your friends have a test, you're pretty much guaranteed to have a test too. And so it's just interesting being in college and having everyone's schedules be so different. But that's cool. I guess it keeps things interesting for us, right? So if you're in the middle of midterms, I wish you guys so much luck. I'm about to get into them this week too, so I understand it's no fun, but I hope you're finding things to do in between your studying that make you happy and kind of balance out the awfulness that is homework. All right, guys, I just wanted to talk about something really briefly back to that listening to the same songs on repeat idea. I thought maybe we could go through my playlist for a second. Now, okay, this is kind of embarrassing. My best friend from home always makes fun of me. She's like, if anybody hears your liked songs, you're not going to have any friends anymore. While that is true, I only ever shuffle my liked songs. I used to be one of those girls that would make a playlist for every month, and then there'd be a different corresponding emoji depending on the vibe of the month. If it's winter, you're going to get a colder emoji, or summer, maybe a palm tree. Yeah, so I abandoned all of that, and now I strictly listen to my liked songs on shuffle. I do this thing where I download 3 or 4 new songs a week, and then those are pretty much the only ones I listen to. Except my roommate is always on aux at home, and so that's been cool because he has an awesome taste in music, and that's how I find out about new songs pretty regularly. So that's fun. Looking at my playlist, I actually just added a new song to it. Guys, in Chapman Radio, if you want to download an audio for your show, you have to do it on your computer and then download it to this big computer to my right, and then you're able to upload it to your specific show folder. Somebody keeps downloading their songs in my folder, okay, guys? And this would be fine, I don't care, except it's music that I don't like. It's music that I don't like, and I'm like, how hard is it for you to put it in your own folder? I'm not going and downloading my fucking Tom Petty songs in somebody else's folder. Please don't download your Taylor Swift music in my folder. Anyways, looking at my playlist, feeling a little bit groovy recently, guys. Looking at it all together, I do have a few songs from Monsters on here, the Milli Vanilli songs, and I know that they're so overplayed because of TikTok and the show, but they're so good, I can't stop listening to them. I'm Gonna Miss You by Milli Vanilli. Yep, Blame It on the Rain. Yeah. Okay, that's kind of all I want to talk about for my playlist. Let's get into today's show, you guys. Today I wanted to talk about saying yes to being uncomfortable, all right? We're always so keen on doing things that we know the outcome of, that we know are going to be fun, that we're going to enjoy, that's going to be a good use of our time. But if you keep doing things that are within your realm of comfort, how are you supposed to, A, find new things that you're passionate about and hobbies, B, grow, and C, just see a different side of things? I'm pretty sure that whatever you're doing, if you're doing it consistently, you're doing it with the same group of people. Now, while that's totally fine, and in high school, I was definitely one to stick to my little friend group. What's the point, guys? How are you supposed to grow and become a more fulfilled person if you are consistently doing the same things with the same group of people? Now, before I talk too much about saying yes to discomfort and giving some examples of those for you guys, I just wanted to be really honest, right? Because I come on here and I preach, do all this stuff and, find things that make you happy and do things that make you uncomfortable. Guys, I low-key didn't do very much last week. And yesterday I kind of had a breakdown on the phone with my dad because I was planning on doing a completely different episode for you guys today. I was going to do, well, actually, hopefully it will still come in the future, so I don't want to spoil it. But I had a really exciting episode coming for you today, and I realized upon editing it, because it was a pre-recorded interview, which I'd never done before, the audio quality was awful. So it was kind of like a last minute, scramble to figure out what I was going to get on and talk to you guys about today that's not going to bore you. And then I honestly started being kind of rude to myself. I was like, I'm so irresponsible, and I can't believe that I didn't think about this earlier. Like, why am I allowed to have a show? Guys, don't be mean to yourself. I was so mean to myself, and I made myself cry, and, that's just so easily avoidable. So, I was on the phone with my dad. I was like, Dad, what can I talk about? He was like, talk about some of the stuff we've done together. Like, we've said yes to a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, you know what? You're right. You are right. So today we're going to take a trip down memory lane, if you will, and talk about some of the things I've said yes to in the past and kind of how they have shaped my perception of things and the way that I carry myself through my daily life. Okay, guys, back on topic. Embrace discomfort. You have to be uncomfortable in order to try new things and to grow and to have new experiences. And I always think about it like, I want to be able to have the most silly and interesting stories to tell my kids in the future. How are you supposed to have those stories if you don't do anything new? Right? Like, I love when my parents tell me about stories that they did, like once or twice. Like, my dad used to go cow tipping when he was young. That's so funny. That freaks me out. I would never do that. But if he hadn't done that, we wouldn't have those stories to talk about. All right. Starting off strong, guys. My dad and I are really big on having shared experiences together, right? Like, for our birthdays, we don't give each other gifts. We give each other tickets to go do something, right? So, like, for my dad's last birthday, I got him a ticket to go to the concert in Santa Barbara that I talked about in my last show. For my last birthday, he gave me a pass to go to drifting school, you guys. Like, car drifting. So that's really awesome. We actually have yet to do that just because of, scheduling and stuff. It's tricky, but very excited to go drifting. But some of the things we did do was last year. Now, I don't know if you're listening from Chapman, if you're listening from another school, if you're not in school. But if you're from Chapman, you definitely know about these frat formals, right? Like sorority formals or whatever, you have like a date party and you go, and it's kind of feels like a high school dance, right? You bring a date, you get dressed up. Frat formals are a completely different breed, right? So you get to go on this like sleepaway trip wherever it may be, and quite often the frats from Chapman go to Vegas for their formal, right? Now, this was my freshman year of college, right? And I really wanted to go to this one frat's formal. But before having found out the date of it, my dad and I agreed to do a father-daughter adventure weekend. Obviously, I was going to say yes to that, right? So the whole thing was my dad was going to come pick me up from school. I had no idea where we were going, what we were doing, if anybody else was going to be there. Like, I had no idea. And in the back of my mind, I was kind of thinking like, oh, maybe we're going to go to the drift place, right? Because that makes sense. You guys, that was not the case. So it's like a Thursday or Friday, whatever. My dad comes and picks me up from school. We get in the car and we start driving. Still, I have no idea where we're going. And he's like hiding the GPS from me. Like, I can't see, the destination he's put in. I'm like, what is about to happen? Until we're driving in the desert. We're like middle of nowhere. And I knew where we were going. My dad and I were headed to Vegas, right? So this was super funny because I'm like looking on Snapchat maps and I'm seeing all of my friends, in their little like car bitmojis, whatever, en route to Vegas as well. So that was really funny. We get there and we're like 2 hotels down from everyone I know, which was super silly. But boy, did we have a different itinerary than the other guys there. So the first night we got there, my dad, I forget which hotel it was at, but my dad got us these crazy tickets to go see Maroon 5. First of all, guys, Adam Levine with a platinum buzz cut. Wow. Wait, but did he get canceled recently or what? I don't know. Anyways, Adam Levine, awesome. So we're at this concert. It was so awesome. I literally felt like we could reach out and touch the stage. We were so close, and it felt like such an intimate venue for kind of a big band. So that was super cool. Great way to start the trip. But with that being said, we got to the hotel at probably like 5 o'clock, had a drink, went to the show, and finished at like 10 o'clock, right? We hadn't had anything to eat, and we wanted to kind of go walk the strip a little bit, see what there was to see, and grab a bite to eat. All right, guys. Now, this is something that I was kind of contemplating whether or not I could put on the radio, especially on Spotify, because digital footprints are real. But my dad and I agreed it was just too funny of a story. So after the show, we're walking on the strip, and you're like not usually walking on the ground level. You're walking on those like bridges and stuff between the hotels. So we're going to this one, Little Italy, right? It was in the hotel. And we were walking through, it kind of felt like an outdoor enclosed tunnel. And it was obviously dark out. So as we exit the tunnel, there's like this little kind of unlit, dark corner vibe outside of the entrance to Little Italy. The only part that wasn't lit up by everything. So my dad and I exit this like enclosed tunnel because again, like you're walking through doors, so like you're not outside, you're not breathing the air outside. So we walk through these doors and it starts to smell really funky right outside the entrance, right? It smells like burnt plastic, burnt hair, just really strange smell. I've never smelled it before, but everything started to feel a little bit wonky. So my dad and I didn't, like, we looked at each other and we were like, oh, that smells weird. That doesn't smell normal, but it's Vegas. People are weird there, whatever. So keep going in. And we didn't I didn't know if he was also feeling weird, so I didn't ask, but I started to feel really nauseous, you guys. Like my head was spinning, I got really dizzy, everything started to look kind of funky, and I did not feel good. So I sprint to the bathroom, right? Got sick in the bathroom, come out. I'm still dizzy. I don't feel right. And I find my dad and he's sitting at the table and he's green in the face. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? This is not normal. So we're sitting down and I'm we're both about to pass out. This doesn't feel right. So then we were doing some research. We're like, what smells like burnt hair? That's somebody's definitely smoking something, right? And as we're walking out, 20 minutes later, we both start to feel normal again. We're walking out and we see a bunch of cops pulling up into that dark corner. Guys, my dad and I smoked PCP in Vegas. We inhaled it. Isn't that crazy? I love being able to tell everybody that I did PCP with my dad in Vegas. But yeah, that was super crazy. To tell everyone, smoked crack with my dad. Threw up in the bathroom, went back to the hotel. It was great. The next morning, we got up and we had an appointment at, I want to say it was called Speed Vegas. Seems like a fitting name. It's right off the strip, kind of in the middle of nowhere-ish. Isn't everywhere in Vegas kind of in the middle of nowhere? It's such an eerie town. And we're walking, and we get to this freaking awesome rink that does go-karting, monster truck jumps, drifting, racing, all of the above. And we had a whole day there, guys. Monster truck jumping is what we were doing. That's so awesome. How many other people can say, oh yeah, went to Vegas for the weekend with my dad and went monster truck jumping? That's so cool. So we did that. We went go-karting. He won't admit to it, but I did beat him twice. So pat on the back for me. And drifting. But this time, the drifting pass that he got me for my birthday that we have yet to do, that's when we get to actually drive the cars and drift. This time we were with professional retired racers, and so they were doing the driving, which was super cool because we were going 160 drifting through this track, which was really cool. But I definitely look forward to being able to have more control and do that myself. And learn to drive stick shift, guys. Do you guys know how to drive stick shift? I tried to learn last summer because my dad drives a stick Jeep, and we got so frustrated with each other that we had to call it quits before somebody got really upset. So, yeah. Anyways, it kind of felt like when you ask your parents for math help on your homework when you're in like elementary school. Just wasn't great. So we did that all day. Then we went and walked the strip some more and got dinner. And I thought that would be the rest of the trip, right? I thought that we were leaving the next morning. It was like Sunday. It was time to go back to school, get back to real life. But boy, was I wrong. My dad woke me up at 5 a.m. I was like, wow, why am I awake? All right, we get in the car. We start driving. Again, no idea where we're going. Guys, we pull up at this like helicopter warehouse, essentially. My dad had booked us a helicopter tour to Grand Canyon. Are you so for real? That's so cool. I'd only been in a helicopter once before, and it was insane too. It was in Iceland, going through all these like crazy, mountains and glaciers and stuff, but except not really mountains because Iceland's low-key flat. But just like seeing everything was super cool. But the Grand Canyon is insane, you guys. So eerie. But it was super funny when we got there because, you can like walk out on that platform, that like clear glass bridge kind of, which by the way is insane. How did they build that? I still don't understand. But you can go on this like glass walkway and they put these weird like plastic shoe covers on your sneakers. And then they have a bunch of people there to take pictures for you because we couldn't take pictures, which was super interesting. Guys, can we talk about those like posed vacation photos that you take when you go on trips like that? Like the only other time I've really done that was when I went on a cruise with my grandparents in like elementary school. Oh my God, we went on a Nickelodeon cruise to Alaska. Oh my God, I thought I was the shit. It was so awesome. But we also took a bunch of photos in that trip too where they're like superposed, and my family still makes fun of me to this day because I looked so ridiculous in them. But super funny. I wish that when, the girls ask you to take photos of them that you could pose them like this too and have it be like a themed trip photography round. Anyways, said yes to Vegas with my dad. Said yes to smoking crack with Vegas and my dad. That was pretty fun. Kind of going off all that, my dad and I love to have these crazy shared experiences that make my mom nervous, like I told you guys, or I just explained. Some of the other things we said yes to is snowmobiling, which was super cool, in Iceland as well. And I was like 12 at the time, or 13, and you're not allowed to drive a snowmobile without a license and so young, but still somehow did it, and that was so fun, you guys. I think I'm noticing a pattern here. Any kind of like ski, like put me on a jet ski, put me on a snowmobile, I'm ready. But I've never actually been skiing or snowboarding, so maybe that's something I'll say yes to next. If anybody wants to teach me how to ski, that'd be cool. Some of the other things we do are concerts, Oh, you know what else we did, you guys? My dad and I went on this whale watching boat, and this was over last winter break. We were on this whale watching boat for 6 hours, and you know what we saw? Nothing. We literally saw nothing. So they gave us tickets to go back for another 6 hours for free. So hopefully I'll have something to report for you guys from that. In this theme of water and looking at things, I wanted to talk a little bit about, and you would have seen this if you follow my Instagram at Say Yes with Mike, which if you're not following, you should, because why not? It's super funny. And I only post like twice a week, so do it. I posted on my Instagram these photos from when I was 10 years old and I got my deep water open diving PADI, which is your license to scuba dive, right? Now, I was doing some research the other day when I was planning this because I assumed that the legal age to get your diving certification must have increased since then, because 10 years old seems insane to be able to just go out in the middle of the ocean and dive. And I was right. You're actually not allowed to do that until you're 15. You can have your PADI, but you need to be in like specific zones of water, and mostly not, open water, open ocean deep dives. So that was super funny. But normally when you're getting your PADI, you have to practice in a pool and get all of this, your documentation's done and take all these tests. And it was such a rigorous process. And you have to do all this before you're able to go in open ocean, right? I didn't know that I was going to be diving. So my family and I were on this amazing trip in the middle of like the Pacific. No. we were in the middle of the ocean, and it was crazy. We get there, and my mom's not a big fan of diving, but my dad is. And so the first time we went out, I was 10, and we were there with our best family friends as well, whose son was 10 too. And the two of us and our two dads and moms went out into this like coral reef kind of. It was probably only like 5 feet deep, just to see if diving would be something we were interested in. I was 10. I hadn't, realized that there were consequences to any action. I just thought, oh my God, this is so cool. So yeah, I want to dive. So after doing the practice round, Jamie and I got, to work on our certification and our tests to be able to do this. And we were super fortunate because on this trip with us, we had a local diving instructor. And so he was super helpful in making everything super safe and seamless. So grateful for that. But like I said, you're supposed to be 15 to open water dive. So this was really crazy, and I didn't even realize at the time just how insane this opportunity was. And I literally would do anything to go back and recreate these experiences now with, a greater appreciation for what I was doing and an understanding of how incredible this opportunity was. But regardless, I'm so grateful to be able to look back at these memories. Now, I don't know if you guys have been open water diving, but like I said, 10 years old, I didn't think anything bad could happen to me. And so I was super keen on just like diving in and doing the thing. But something that I want to note is the scariest part that I found of all of this was the way that you get into the water. Now, if you've gone scuba diving before, you would know that when you're getting into the water with all your gear on, because it's a lot of gear and it's really heavy. And with the way that the nitrogen works with your brain in descending and, taking your stop times so that you don't, die with the nitrogen oxide. When you're sitting on the side of the boat to get into the water, the most efficient way and the way that you're supposed to get in is to literally tip backwards off the boat and pretty much do like a backflip into the water. Guys, that is so scary because you have this super heavy, like sharp at certain points gear on your back, and like one wrong move and your head hits your tank and like you're done. You're done. And that actually did happen. I don't even think I've told my parents this, but we were doing, on our way up one time, we were doing our stop, to get our oxygen levels safe before we continue to ascend up to the surface. And, I was 10. I didn't know. I was so stupid. And we're at the stop. And when you're stopping, you're supposed to stop, just float there for a second, wait 5 minutes, and then you can continue. But I was stupid, and I was like, oh my God, like, this is so fun. And I tried to do a backflip in the water, and I bonked my head on the tank, and that was probably the scariest experience. But in terms of diving, you guys, I went 81 feet down. 81 feet down in the middle of the ocean. And this is crazy because we were swimming straight into schools of barracudas, gray and white tip sharks, and hammerheads and tiger sharks. Guys, I'm terrified of sharks now. Like, when I go to the beach, and I go pretty frequently, if I feel like there might be a shark in any kind of vicinity within, like, I don't know, 1,000 feet of me, like, I don't want to get in the water. So it's just crazy thinking back to when I, jumped in so fearlessly and was literally, like, there's video footage, and I have to try to find it, of my dad and his friend filming my best friend Jamie and I swimming into these schools of fish and sharks. Again, I didn't think anything bad could happen to me. So I just did it. And this is something that I really think is interesting. At what point do you start realizing that consequences are real? Something that I'm going to circle back to. But continuing on my journey with diving, like I said, we were swimming with all these sharks and barracudas. And one other thing we did was we were in this kind of like shallow bay area, but still like pretty far out in the water. It was just a little bit more shallow there. And we went to go feed a school of stingrays, right? And stingrays are pretty harmless. You just, obviously don't scare them. Don't do anything stupid. But you have to be careful because when you're feeding them, if you accidentally get your fingers in their mouth, because their face is like on their underside. if you accidentally get your fingers in their mouth, they can fully break your full hand. Also, like if their tail gets a little too close to you, like that can go straight through you. Like you have to be very careful dealing with these creatures. This freaked me out. This really freaked me out because we're just standing in this shallow body of water with like, I don't know, 50 stingrays circling around us, but not just stingrays, you guys. If you would look off a little bit further, and not much further at all, like still very close. They could get to you in like, I don't know, 5 seconds. If you look down, there were probably like 100 reef sharks circling our feet because obviously they're looking for whatever food the stingrays drop. So you have to be really careful, and I was freaking out. I was freaking out in the same way that I was at Not Scary Farms, thinking that it would be something that I was like totally chill with because I've done scarier things before. I was not chill. And the freaking diving instructor thought it was so funny. Every time I turn around to put one of those stingrays on my back, those things like suction cup onto you. Like it latches on. And I found that scarier than any diving trip I've been on. But still funny. And yeah, I said yes to feeding stingrays. But back to this thing where this concept where I literally wasn't afraid to go 81 feet down in the ocean with sharks in, territory that it's not meant for people. We can't breathe down there. We're invading the marine animals' lifestyle and environment. Like, we're not supposed to be there. And so it was pretty ballsy to get in that water and swim right up to the sharks and literally into the school of barracudas. There's like moray eels all at our feet. Just like things that could do you serious harm, right? But I didn't care because I didn't think anything could happen to me. And this is something that I was talking about with my dad. At what stage do you stop realizing that consequences can happen to, or do you start realizing that consequences are real and bad things can happen to you? Like I was saying to him, you never think that the worst case scenario will happen to you. You hear about stuff happening on the news, you see it on social media, but you never think it could happen to you. I sure never thought I was going to have a stalker until I did. And it's just crazy. Like, if you switch the way that you think, this could be a positive thing because now I have eyes on the back of my head and I feel prepared moving forward because I dealt with such a shitty situation. But seriously, at what point does everything stop being fun and lighthearted and, no risks involved to you realizing that, the world isn't necessarily a super fun and happy place all the time. Like, shit goes down. And especially in times like today, I was listening to my friend's podcast last night, Model Behavior on Chapman Radio. You guys should listen to it too, every Sunday at 10 p.m. It's so awesome. But she was talking about this story that she heard from one of her friends who had gone on a Tinder date. And I'm not going to recap the whole thing because it's not necessarily my story to tell. But some crazy shit went down. Like, we live in a world where people can depict themselves as whatever they want online, but that could be completely opposite to who they are as a person. Like, this girl went on a Tinder date, and this guy came back to her house, and she felt kind of an eerie vibe, and so she goes in her room and locks the door and calls the police. By the time they get there, they kick the guy out, and he's literally wrapped the entire apartment in saran wrap and had an axe and a chainsaw and was fully planning to kill her. Isn't that insane? It's just, it's a crazy world that we live in, and it's just important to recognize that consequences are real, and unfortunately. But I don't know, just kind of the concept that hasn't always been embedded in our brains is super interesting. But guys, you know why I felt okay in my stalker era? I started doing kickboxing last summer, guys. Like, not this past summer, but the one before, which was super funny. And that was something that definitely took me out of my comfort zone too, because guys, I was going to this gym and sparring, like fully getting up and like boxing and kicking these men who are some of the biggest, most buff guys I've ever seen in real life. Like, those bodybuilder TikToks you see or those shows you see online where they're all like oiled up and greasy and like these big like macho guys. Guys, those are the people I was surrounded by. Not only surrounded by, fighting. I was fighting. So I like pull up in my cute like Aritzia one piece and I'm wrapping my fists in my pink tape to put on my cutesy gloves. And then I go and like fight these big men. I don't know. I think if you guys are going to take up a new hobby, a new sport, and you want to be taken out of your comfort zone, try kickboxing because it's pretty fucking fun. Okay, now back to this thing about embracing discomfort. I wanted to share an embarrassing story that happened to me, but something that, without even realizing how significant it was, completely changed my life, right? So I've always been one to want to be on stage. Well, used to be one who always wanted to be on stage. And when I was in elementary school, I went to this super tiny school, and I talked about this a little bit in my first episode. I went to this very small school, and when I was in 3rd grade, they introduced this new school-wide talent show that they would do. So you had to be in 5th grade to enter, but because the school was so small, they let me do it in 3rd grade. So I made it through all the preliminary rounds with, 5 stars. I was so boastful and cocky about it. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to win this show, whatever. And I don't even remember what songs I was singing, but definitely some super childish stuff. Anyways, I made it through all the preliminary rounds, and then the final show was going to be at our annual school garden party, which was held in the summer, and everybody's parents and friends were invited to come. So this meant, keep in mind it was such a small school, there were like 400 people there. And it was my turn to get up and sing. And guys, I chose to sing Jolene. I got up on stage and they started playing my track, and immediately after I blamed whoever was on aux, but it was fully my fault because I should have known. They started playing my track and I started singing too early, you guys. I started singing too early and I realized immediately that I had messed up. And you know what I did? I started crying and I ran off stage. So embarrassing. So embarrassing in front of everybody that I knew. All my friends, all my family, all my friends' families. It was awful. And I run into the bathroom and start crying. Now, eventually I did get back up on stage and finish the rest of the song. But obviously I didn't win the show. And that kind of, deterred me from doing anything else on stage. And I said, I have awful stage fright. I don't want to do this again. This sucks. So it took a little bit of time for me to kind of do anything that made me uncomfortable in that realm again. Until it was 6th or 7th grade. I would always go to Virginia in the summer and winter to visit my family. And we had this routine where our other group of best family friends and us would go to the Outer Banks every summer. But before we went there, we would spend a few days in Richmond, Virginia, where they lived. And my good buddy Barner was super into electric guitar, still is, and he's so incredibly talented. But I love to sing. And so we were like, oh my God, what if we tried to busk downtown? Guys, this was crazy. We would just go into the street and just start playing. And we had a few times where homeless people would come up and start singing with us. Made me really uncomfortable, but Barner sure ate it up. So that was really funny. But yeah, that really took me out of my comfort zone, and that was a super fun thing to do. Still don't actually know. We had 2 people come up to us and give us $20 bills, which was huge because all the other money we made was $1 to $5 at a time. So when we got 2 $20 bills, we were like, oh, our parents definitely set this up and gave those people the bills to give us, but they still won't admit to it. So I think that's really interesting. Still don't know where that came from. Anyways, after that, I was like, okay, maybe singing in front of people isn't the worst thing. So eventually, I knew that it was time to redeem myself. And my senior year of high school, I signed up for the school talent show again. But this one, is so stupid. This is one of the ones where they'll give you a participation award for being in it. There wasn't a first, second, third place, whatever. So the stakes were really low. So I figured that this was the perfect opportunity to get back into that, fighting my stage fright era. So got up and I kind of regret it. I sang such a slow song. Everybody else was getting up there and singing Wonderwall and super silly stuff. I got up there. I don't even remember what song it was, but it was low-key so depressing. Anyways, did it, faced my fear of stage fright, wore a cute outfit, got up there and sang. So that's cool. And after that, I was like, okay, maybe stage fright isn't that bad. And Guys, I'm kind of using my podcast as a platform to get over that too, because my dad always says that I don't sound super nervous when I get on here, guys, but I'm like consistently freaking out. I don't know, I don't want to say something that I think is going to bore you guys. I don't want to get on here and make a fool out of myself. But I get so nervous every time I come into the station and I know that I'm about to go live, because it is nerve-wracking. I don't know who's listening. I don't know where necessarily I'm going to go with the episode. Like, sure, I have an outline right here, but I've veered very far off topic even just today. So very interesting. But then kind of flashing forward to this, facing my fear of stage fright now, like I said last week, I had my first little concert, I don't even know if you could call it that, with my band, and this was genuinely terrifying. I really thought that I had kind of gotten over the stage fright era of my life, but as soon as I got on that stage and saw all the people that I surround myself regularly with looking at me, and not even just them, but their parents too, because it was parents' weekend, guys, I freaked out. I was so prepared for the show. Well, as prepared as we could be, because we only had 2 days to practice. I thought I was so prepared. The second we got up there, I froze. And while it wasn't like my 3rd grade talent show where I, cried running off stage, I wanted to. I honestly wanted to. It was so nerve-wracking, and I really thought that I had gotten past that point in my life. So again, it's important to remind yourself that embracing discomfort and doing things that take you out of your comfort zone are important. And if I hadn't done that show, I wouldn't have the motivation to improve so drastically. I would have continued thinking like, oh my God, we sound so good in this garage. This is so perfect. But the real world and real shows are not the same as playing in the comfort of your own home. So, it's important to see, when you have opportunities that present themselves that take you out of your comfort zone, it's important to take them up. That's what I have to say. Now, talking back to this thing that my dad and I were talking about, this concept of when do you start, seeing consequences as real things that can happen to you. I wanted to talk about the fact that part of growing is accepting and acknowledging failure. But instead of letting it hold you back, you use it as a motivator to do better and be bigger. You're only going to do better if you see failure as a success. And this kind of applies to that show I was just talking about. Yes, even though I know that it didn't sound great, and I know that most of the improvement needs to be done on my behalf, the rest of the band sounded great, I recognize this not necessarily as a failure, but as a stepping stone and as a lesson, and something that moving forward I can apply and think back to, okay, so this happened. These were the problems last time. What can I do to make myself feel more prepared and better about the end result in the future? So that's just something interesting to keep in mind. Now, guys, I got so off topic today. I was literally going to talk for so long about something that I did this summer, but I guess I'm just going to have to do that in next week's episode. But I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about embracing discomfort over the summer. Now, last year, my sophomore year of college, and it sounds so cliche because I'm literally only 19, a junior. I act like I know all the stuff, giving you guys advice. I don't know half the stuff I'm talking about, right? It's just I get on here and I ramble, and I hope that it sounds good in the end. But last year, I was on even more of a high horse for no reason. I thought that I was literally the coolest girl in town until I got home for summer, and I genuinely didn't recognize the girl that I was looking at in the mirror. I was like, I can't relate to her. I feel like she doesn't have the same experiences as me. It's just, this feels really unfamiliar. And it's so easy when you're at school to be blinded by everything you're doing and the people you're surrounding yourselves with and the parties you're going to and, the schoolwork you have to do. You get so caught up in the moment that you forget that this is just a tiny little blimp in time, and this Chapman bubble is so small and superficial. Not just Chapman, any school. You get in this mindset where all that matters is what's happening in the moment and, what you're going to do later with your friends and, all this stuff, what parties you're going to go to, all the stuff. But what's so important to remember is that this stuff is just fleeting. These moments that you feel like your world is ending because you didn't get invited to this date party, or, you didn't make it to whatever event, it doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter, because these moments are so temporary. But with that being said, last year I was on such a high horse. I thought I was so cool. I was going to all these parties and, I was wearing clothes not necessarily that I thought others would like, but that I thought were, appropriate to the theme. Whereas now, and I talked about this on my episode of Say No Mo to FOMO, you wear what you want and you go in with an attitude that you're going to benefit from. Instead of what I was doing last year, where I would go to parties to try and talk to guys and, get this weird sense of validation from people that I genuinely I love them, but I don't care what anybody else thinks of me anymore. So that was super interesting, but I was just doing all these things that weren't good for me. And it was really hard accepting the fact that I wasn't taking care of myself in the way that I should have. And even more importantly, I wasn't taking care of myself in the way that I would take care of my friends. And that was a really intense realization. My parents always said growing up, do unto others as you wish they do unto you. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. Treat others how you want to be treated, essentially. And I realized that I was not treating myself the way that I would like to treat others. I wasn't holding myself accountable to anything. I wasn't doing things that would, make me a better person, make me feel more fulfilled. I just wasn't doing any of that. And so when I got home for the summer, I knew that it was time for a change. And I had many conversations with my parents about it too, because they saw what I had done to myself. And, not that I was doing all this bad stuff, but I just wasn't taking care of myself how I should have been. And so it was really hard coming to terms with the fact that my lifestyle just was not something that I should be sustaining and that I needed a change. So guys, I said yes to doing something crazy, and I was totally going to talk about it today, but I'm literally at the end of my show. So I guess next week I'm going to talk about saying yes to 75 Day Hard, because I seriously do think that changed the trajectory of my life, as cliche as it sounds, but it really did change my mentality and, made me adopt this new routine and lifestyle. So I'm really excited to be able to share that with you guys. And even though I kind of did my own adaptation of it, it was still super useful and beneficial and helped me gain a more positive and optimistic outlook on things. And so really bummed that I don't have time to talk about that with you guys today, but that is to come. So look forward to that. Guys, this has kind of been an episode that's been all over the place, but what I really want to hone in on as I'm wrapping things up is that it's important to do things that make you uncomfortable. I think that if I hadn't gotten my PADI, there's no chance that later on in life I will go diving again. But since I have it, and I've done that before, and I have that experience under my belt, I feel confident moving forward doing more adventurous things like that, which is awesome because, got my PADI, conquered the sea. Next, I want to conquer the skies. So look forward to a skydiving episode. Everybody thinks I'm going to chicken out of it, and I don't want to say that I will, but I'm definitely feeling a little bit nervous about it. So that's something that I'm excited to take, myself out of my comfort zone and experience. So that'll be cool. But again, thank you guys so much for listening. And I really do hope that you do something this week that is new to you and that opens your eyes to a new kind of realm of experiences and opportunities, because getting out of your comfort zone is the only way to grow. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. I really hope that even though this episode was all over the place, that you didn't dislike what you heard. So tune in with me next week, next Monday at 1 with Say Yes on Chapman Radio. Bye, guys.